Let's not even go there with the XG. I mean, how can Fulham score 4 and only have 1 of an XG, and City score 5 and their XG was 2? It was supposed to be the night where I come on tonight and I go, Man City on fire. Erling Haaland gets to 100, the fast ever to achieve it. Phil Foden's banging form, 4 goals in 2 games. City on the march. They're 2 points now behind Arsenal. Everything was supposed to be pro City and the roll that they're on and they're flying and scoring 5 goals. But when you lose 4 and 2 against Leeds and 2 against Newcastle, all of a sudden you're coming on tonight thinking, can they win the league? Because they can, the form they're in, but you can't be conceding 4 goals against Fulham and 2 against Leeds. So I think it leaves everyone a little bit scratching their heads, thinking where they at. They're in good form, they're winning games, they're scoring goals. Haaland's got to 100. Phil Foden, like we just said, is scoring goals and looking great, but that defence is all over the place.
How do you assess it, Stevie? Because it's these 2 back-to-back wins here for them, but it's some scary moments on the way to them.
Well, I think we saw, and we've seen over the last 4 games in particular, what City are all about. You know, the question before these games was, who's going to score if Haaland doesn't? Well, all of a sudden, Doku stepped up. We saw Foden, last 2 or 3 games has stepped up. So they've answered that question, but then we spoke about the back line. Going into the Newcastle game, they had only lost 4 in 8 games. And so it was, well, they look kind of settled. They've lost 10 goals in 4 games since then. So it's pretty clear what City are. They're a team that going forward, if you don't ruffle them up, if you step off and let them play, then we've got weapons. That front 3, all scoring goals. So that's what you're going to get. Unfortunately, you kind of know what you're going to get defensively. They can't. They don't cover each other particularly well. That's the biggest problem. And you've got 2 fullbacks who are absolutely 100%. They're 2 guys that prefer to go forward than defend.
They're not fullbacks. That's
well, and okay, so then you're playing with 2 at the back. So don't be surprised if you lose 10 goals in 4 games when you're only playing with 2 defenders. And albeit a great goalie, but even a great goalie has lost 10 in the last 4. So it's pretty clear what City are. Really clear.
and beyond what we've come to expect of Manchester City, when it's 5-4, right? And you can sense that they're freaking out. But it's one thing that we can sense that they're freaking out. Completely different story when you actually see Manchester City, a team that thrives in possession of the ball and the quality of those players have in that possession of the ball. Nervous with the ball at their feet, unable to complete passes and Fulham all over them, clearing the ball wherever it may go, running away from pressure, hoping that the time runs out. That is not the look of a potential champion. Now, in my estimation, Don feels otherwise, but in my estimation, they're not in that conversation just yet, up until we see some sort of collapse from Arsenal that we haven't seen just yet. And so, the way they closed out this match, it's far more important to me than the 3 points that they got out of this game. The way this game was 5-1 and it became 5-4, and they couldn't quite control the end of the game properly. The way that a champion team or championship level team should do is the sort of stuff that hangs around and creates doubt. This team walks out of the stadium today not talking about the fact that they won away from home and that they won 2 in a row. They walk out of the stadium today thinking, oh, good Lord, man. Whoo! Ha! We got away with that one. In a game in which you score 5 goals away from home. And it creates doubt. And that's doubt that hangs around and eventually it shows up again whenever it's the next time for you to hang on to a result.
One man who keeps showing up is Erling Haaland, though, Don, the fastest to 100 Premier League goals. Got that 100th tonight. And you'd expect a lot more are going to follow.
Yeah, I mean, when he analyses his performance tonight, he probably should have had a hat-trick, but I mean, the fastest to it by a margin, by the way. I mean, he's just come into the Premier League in this short space of time, completely ripped all the numbers up. You know, it used to be back in the day where, you know, a striker would hit 20 goals a season, you'd be happy. I think Messi, Ronaldo and Haaland are changing those numbers. The way he plays the game, everyone's tried to micro-analyse where his weaknesses might be, but I think he proved tonight with the through ball that he is a good number 9 target man, can lay it off, but he's a predator, okay? He lives his life scoring goals. He'll never miss. Even when he misses one, he'll get back on the horse and he'll get another one, he'll get another chance. He never loses confidence. I think that's the main thing about him. We're all footballers and we've all got an ego and we've got to be...
Right, we are awaiting back pages, gents, to come through to us. So many late goals, so much incident, so many talking points in the night's Premier League football. But we're going to start off, where else but at Craven Cottage, Sam Dean. And my goodness, I mean, if you went to Craven Cottage, you know, hoping for a bit of value for money, I think you probably got it, no matter which side you supported. But what a comeback from Fulham. But in terms of the game itself, I mean, it really delivered on all fronts, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the advert for the Premier League. It's the competitive edge that Fulham have, and they're able to compete with a team like City, with their own star players, with their own international footballers, bringing players like Kevin, who cost almost £40 million off the bench to change the game in the second half. That's what the Premier League's all about, really. And it's a great advert for the game. I love the fact that it's midweek under the floodlights too, and I'm sure that contributed to the atmosphere and to the occasion. And yes, it's a game that sort of throws up as many questions as it does answers regarding Man City and their title charge. For the second time in a few days, they've sort of shown real defensive vulnerability that's totally uncharacteristic for a Pep Guardiola side. Yet they've also demonstrated the attacking firepower they have, which means they are still such a threat in this title race. And I think it kind of underlined how City have changed, and I think how they're a bit more fun this year than they have been in previous seasons. The way they're attacking, the way Phil Foden's playing again, Erling Haaland obviously keeps on scoring. But also there's this permanent sense of vulnerability. And it's remarkable to see a team like City, managed by Pep Guardiola, play with such kind of frailty and openness. And you look at the fact they've conceded 16 goals in 14 games this season. That's really out of sorts for them. So much has changed there, and you compare that to Arsenal, their main title challengers, and Arsenal conceded 7 goals in 13 games. So they're worlds apart when it comes to defensive vulnerability, and tonight showed that once again.
On that point, we'll talk about the individual performances, particularly Foden, Chukwueze, Fulham, and obviously Haaland reaching the milestone of 100 goals in the Premier League. But on the point that Sam was mentioning there, James, do you think that defensive vulnerability will ultimately end up costing Manchester City when it comes into a title battle?
Yeah, I mean, look, at 5-1, it looked like, this was a game that was going to exemplify why City could be the main challengers and may even go on and win it. And at 5-4, we're sitting here thinking this is actually an advert for why they won't win it. Because, we're so used to seeing City take the lead in games and then keep the ball for an hour, and just the opponent doesn't get a sniff, and it's almost boring. And I mean that as a compliment to City, because they just have that kind of complete authority and control in possession. And it just looked, I don't know, I mean, in that second half, obviously they were missing Rodri. He took off Nico Gonzalez at, I think it was 5-2, and brought on John Stones. And then he had Nico O'Reilly playing in midfield at the end of the game. And O'Reilly's been a real find for City this season, fantastic at left back. But I think the fact that, you